the keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. The schedule is out. It is here. And finally, we know when the 49ers are going to be playing their games and who they're going to be playing against when. We already knew the opponents, but this is one of the fun things is you get to kind of figure out when they're going to be playing. You know, when are these games that we're going to watch on Thursday nights and Monday nights and how many primetime games they're going to have. We're going to run through it, and I want to get this out there so you guys know it as quick as possible. So I'm going to run through the games, top to bottom, and then we'll kind of talk about them a little bit. If you guys have, comments about games, leave them in chat, and we'll have a fun conversation about it. So the 49ers are going to start the 2025 NFL season on the road at Seattle in a typical 1:05 kickoff time. That one's going to be on Fox. So week 1, 9-7 at Seattle, 1:05 on Fox. Week 2, the San Francisco 49ers head to New Orleans. So short trip in week 1, but longer trip for week 2, playing in a tough place at New Orleans, but no Derek Carr. That is on the 14th, another, Sunday game. This one, a 10 o'clock Western, start time. So it's an early one, 1 p.m. Eastern time, a little bit early for the 49ers. That's on Fox as well. Then they're at home versus Arizona in week 3. So 2 of the first 3 games the 49ers play this season is going to be against divisional rivals. And so they go Seattle at New Orleans, then home versus Arizona. That is another Sunday one. So as of right now, we have not got a single primetime game through the first 3 games that we went through. What's up, GC? How's it going? And then they go and they play Jacksonville at home. So they've got back-to-back road games to start the season and then back-to-back home games. No rest problems. None at all because every single game right now is Sunday to Sunday. So at Seattle, Sunday, then New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville. Then they're going to play on Thursday night. So this is the first primetime game. They're playing at Los Angeles week 5. That's October 2nd. That'll be 5:15 p.m. on Prime. So that's the first primetime game that the 49ers are going to have is at Los Angeles. And I feel like this is becoming a tradition now for the 49ers to play, Los Angeles on Thursday night. It always happens. Then they are back on the road at Tampa Bay. And this will be a 10 o'clock start time, 10 o'clock Pacific time against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That one's going to be on CBS. So there will be 10 days between the game against Los Angeles, which is at LA, short trip. Then they go across country to Tampa Bay, one of those long trips. So back-to-back road games again. So it's interesting how that works out. We'll go over that a little bit more in just a second on kind of how this schedule works out. Then they're at home versus Atlanta on Sunday. This is a Sunday night game, 5:20 p.m. start on NBC versus Atlanta. Then they're at Houston. They get to play D'Amico Ryans again. This is another 10 a.m. start time. So lots of 10 a.m. start times. Last year, they only had a couple. Already, we have seen this is the 4th 10 a.m. start time when it comes to Pacific time. That's normally a little bit of an issue for the 49ers. So for West Coast teams. We will see how that goes. So Houston, 10:26. Then we get into November. And we still haven't got to the bye week. So normally this is where the 49ers bye week came, that first part, week 9, week 10 of the season, not this season for the 49ers. They're at New York. So another back-to-back road trip, short trip to Texas, followed by a long trip across country to New York. And you guessed it, a 10 a.m. Pacific start time. So another early one. That one's going to be on CBS. Then 7 days later, they're at home in week 10 versus Los Angeles Rams. That's a 1:25 start time. That's on Fox. Then they're at Arizona, and they're playing Arizona on 11/16. That is a Sunday game, 1:05 p.m. Then they've got the Carolina Panthers on Monday night, 11/24. So November 24th, 5:15 versus the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers come to Santa Clara. That saves them from going on one trip. Then the next week, they are at Cleveland for another 10 o'clock start time. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10 o'clock start times for the San Francisco 49ers. This one in Cleveland on 11:30. That one could be a little bit interesting. We'll talk about the ramifications of that. Week 14 bye. So normally the bye week for the 49ers has been coming week 9, week 10. This time it's backed up for week 14. Now that could mean that helps them with the stretch run. We will see. But that one's a little bit tough when it's that far down. You like to see it a little bit higher. But at least it's not at the beginning of the season. Those are the worst kind of bye weeks. Week 15, the 14th of December, the 49ers play the Tennessee Titans at home. So that's Tennessee coming out of a bye week. Get ready for Cam Ward. Then they're at Indianapolis for a Monday night game on 12/22. So right by Christmas time, no Christmas game for the 49ers this year. That's really good news for everyone that's, got relationships and things like that. It makes it difficult when you got kids and family. And so you don't have to worry about this. That'll be a fun one. 49ers get a win. Everyone will be celebrating Gus Bradley's trip back to Indianapolis and getting a win there. Week 17, that's 12/28. The Chicago Bears are coming to Santa Clara. That is a Sunday night football game. Could mean a lot when it comes to playoff picture. It's going to be interesting there. And then week 18, this is the last game of the season. This could be for the division. Who knows? The Seattle Seahawks. And this is to be determined. No time, no date, because they wait to see how things play out. So that is the schedule right there, top to bottom. And I'll just run through it real quick. At Seattle, at New Orleans, versus Arizona and Jacksonville at home. Then at Los Angeles, at Tampa Bay, at home versus Atlanta, at Houston, at New York, then at home versus Los Angeles, at Arizona, at home versus Carolina, at Cleveland. Then they're at home versus Tennessee, at Indianapolis, and then they're at home to finish the season versus Chicago and Seattle. Now, some of the first things that I noticed is coming off this, and we did get this right here. Kovev Coffee says 14 week in is bye. That's good for Niners. So it is definitely better than having it earlier on. The perfect time is where they've been having it over the last couple seasons was week 9 and 10. So I think that's the first thing you notice. You always look for the bye week, especially for these players as they're trying to get healthy. And a week 14 bye week is not the worst thing. I think they would like it a little bit more middle season. That's going to be a tough stretch when they started getting to about week 10. Week 10 through week 13 is going to be tough getting to that bye week. Now, if they can get to that point, they are going to feel really refreshed for that stretch run. And so I want to kind of go through and some of the things that I noticed right off about this 49er schedule that I find interesting. The first thing was, which I pointed out, is, these 10 o'clock games. I think that is one of the most interesting parts is the 10 o'clock games. So that's something that the 49ers are getting stuck with. That I think that they would prefer there not be so many 10 o'clock games. That is for sure. But that's how it is. Now, please, if you're watching, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you are going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs. And Bet Online has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. A large selection of odds on everything from Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and UFC. Bet Online remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head on over to the online casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. So now that we're looking at the 10 o'clock games and the fact that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think that is the first thing that kind of gets on us a little bit. Because this used to be a real problem for West Coast teams, was going to the East Coast and playing those early start times. Now, the 49ers, since the Jim Harbaugh era, have had less problems with the 10 a.m. start time. So I don't know how relevant those are going to be and how much those are going to affect the 49ers time clock and their internal time clock. I think they figured a lot of these things out throughout the years. I think those, are some interesting things. And they're not playing, really easy teams with those. I think there are some there that you would expect the 49ers to have a really good opportunity to win. At New Orleans, real quarterback situation and question marks. Spencer Rattler, is it going to be Tyler Shaw? Who's it going to be there? Then you look at Tampa Bay. That's going to be a tough matchup. They're probably one of the best teams in the South. That's a 10 a.m. start time. D'Amico and C.J. Stroud in Houston, that's going to be a tough 10 o'clock game, but it is a little bit of a shorter trip. Maybe that will play into it. At New York, no clue what you're going to get from Russell Wilson. Quarterback question marks there. I don't know about that one. And then Cleveland, is it going to be Shedeur Sanders? Is it going to be Dylan Gabriel? Is it going to be Joe Flacco? I think the bigger question with the Cleveland game and some with the New York as well is the weather conditions. We have seen, and I don't want to talk, negatively, but we have seen Brock Purdy struggle with elements when it comes to wet footballs. And I think that those are two games here at the end of the season that could be a little bit of a struggle. You're talking week 9, week 13, respectively, that you could have a little bit of a problem there if it came to weather. Now, maybe they won't be. Maybe those will be really good games, but I would have loved to have seen Cleveland and New York earlier in the schedule and maybe like New Orleans later in the schedule and Tampa Bay, because those one's indoors, one's in Florida. So those are some things, some elements you see with the schedule overall. Now, it looks like the San Francisco 49ers got 1, 2, 3, 4 primetime games this year. Maybe it's 5 primetime games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 primetime games. So they did get the full slate of primetime games anyways. So that's really good. They continue to be featured. A lot of people know that means they're going to be, pretty good with the game. And so I think it's interesting. And we're getting question marks about Trey Hendrickson. I will get to those in a second. I appreciate, Anthony and Kenny and chat talking about Trey Hendrickson. The other thing with the schedule is there's no long stretches of home games. Like normally you would get for the 49ers, 3 games in a row at home. So far, that has not been something that has happened. I think when you look at, the schedule right here, it's on the road for 2. Now, I will say this. It appears that the NFL did the 49ers a solid with these back-to-back road games in the fact that most of them are short trip followed by long trip. So, for instance, they're going at Seattle in the first game of the season. That's a short trip. Then at New Orleans for the second half of the back-to-back road games. So, a longer trip after the short one. You look at the second set because they go 2 home after that. At LA, short trip, followed by the East Coast trip to Tampa Bay. So, that one's long. Then they're at Houston, which is a close one to Texas, then at New York. So another short one. Then, the other ones, it's kind of more balanced. They're at home. Then they have their long stretch. So I will give the 49ers, an advantage there where now the schedule worked out where they don't have these back-to-back long trips where they have to stay on the East Coast. They have to stay somewhere else. That's not happening. So they're not going to be doing that this year, which I think is good news for them. Because I think when the schedule kind of shakes out, that's what you're hoping to find is situations where travel's not going to hurt you. And I don't think travel is hurting the 49ers this season the way that it did when it comes to, the rest element. So when looking at the rest element, I mean, especially early in the season, there's not really any of those problems because every game's on Sunday. Then once you get to the Thursday night game against Los Angeles in week 5, then it's Tampa, and then it gets on a normal schedule again. There's not these quick turnarounds. I mean, we'll see when we kind of break down like your Monday night games compared to like Cleveland, but these are going to be short differentials between the two. And so I think this is good news overall with how the schedule is looking right now. Now, once we get a complete overview of the entire NFL schedule, we might find some advantages for teams coming off buys and things like that. That I'll have to do a deeper dive in. But just talking about the 49ers schedule in general, it doesn't look so bad. And even the stretches of games with who they're playing, and we know that they're going to have the easiest schedule in the NFL, but I felt like they really didn't give them super tough games like back to back where there's these murderous row stretches like they had last year, where they had to play Philly and they had to play Buffalo and everyone in a row. I mean, at Seattle, right? It's divisional. That one's going to be competitive. But New Orleans has question marks all over their roster, including quarterback. I think that's a winnable game. Then you got the tough one versus Arizona because it's divisional, but then you've got a winnable game against Jacksonville. You play at Los Angeles. This is probably like the toughest stretch for the 49ers. It's at LA. 49ers normally are just fine. At Tampa Bay, but they've been able to knock off Tampa Bay over the last few years. Atlanta, that's a winnable football game. They have improved. At Houston, that's probably the toughest stretch that I see in this entire schedule. And that's not even really that tough. So at LA, at Tampa, at home versus Atlanta, at Houston seems to be the toughest four-game stretch in the entire 49ers schedule. They would have taken that for sure last year. So this is good news when you're looking at how a roster is built and how you're going to be able to perform. I think you're starting to feel pretty good about some of these wins and, potential wins in these stretches. Then you go New York, you're at home versus LA. You got to feel comfortable that you can probably get a divisional win there and, of course, beat the New York Giants. Then you're at Arizona. That is always a good game for the 49ers. That's always tough. But then you got Carolina coming to town and Cleveland. Those are winnable games as well. Tennessee, a very winnable game. At Indianapolis, a winnable game. Now, they will be a good team. Chicago, we'll see. And then Seattle at home. It could be for all the marbles when it comes to the NFC West. I do love the divisional game at the end of the season when it comes down to something mattering. A couple years ago, I went to the Sam Darnold starting for the 49ers versus the Rams, and they lost, and it really didn't mean anything. So it's interesting. And Brad says this, no teams off buys, and this is big news. And that was one of the things, Brad, that I was saying. I was going to have to do a deeper dive into the NFL schedule, so thanks for coming through. Brad Jones coming through and helping out, and says no teams coming off buys for the 49ers. That is huge news. Last year, it felt like the 49ers were definitely getting the short end of the stick when it came to the schedule. And I don't think that lays out this year at all. So I think that's interesting. Brad does say he doesn't like the Bears game coming on a 6-day break. So the 49ers play at Indianapolis on Monday night. Then they play Sunday Night Football the next week versus Chicago. So, yes, that one is interesting. I think the good news is for that, and I'm just spitballing here with a little bit of good news, is at least the 49ers, when they play Chicago, are at home and not on the road. So you're right that you don't love a 6-game break for you while the other team gets a full 7. But I think you feel kind of comfortable with the fact that at least you're at home and they're going to have a travel day. Maybe that will help catch it up, where the NFL kind of does a solid to the 49ers with Chicago having to go across country. But yeah, I definitely understand that for sure. That makes sense. And, here's the interesting part. I'm going to get the keys in a second. But Brad said, but a week 14 bye. Ooh. And it was interesting because earlier in chat, people were happy about the week 14 bye. Kofeev Coffee was cool with it. I would have rather had week 9 or 10 like they've had before. It always falls right around my birthday, and I always kind of enjoyed the bye week kind of being in that category. So that way the 49ers winning and losing doesn't really affect my birthday. I know I'm being selfish. But this time, yeah, week 14 is a little bit late. I mean, this is a December bye week. If the 49ers get there with a very favorable record, Brad, I think we'll all feel good about it because then they can rest. And could you imagine if they were able to get, and I know I'm getting way out over my skis. I'm just imagining this is just, if they got home field advantage, you would have a bye week 14, play 4 games and then have a bye week. That would be tremendous if they can get there, but there's a long way to go before that. I'm just saying, I'm spitballing here as we're talking about this. Now, Key says, if we start off hot, second half of schedule seems easy. Yeah, I think so. I think when you get to probably after that game or after the Houston game, you go to week 9 and you're at New York, that's a winnable game. LA at home, winnable. At Arizona, that's definitely winnable. But here's what you're talking about: Carolina, Cleveland, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Chicago, Seattle. You have to feel pretty good about that stretch run and what you're able to do. I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. And so getting there makes, the 49ers be able to kind of get this thing done. I like it. Um, and Sun Yu says, where are the new jerseys? I don't know. I don't know if they were entailing that they were going to have those new jerseys. I know that eventually they're going to have the jerseys at the unveil. The NFC West was chosen, but those aren't coming. I don't know if those are announced that they're going to come out right now. So nothing on the new jerseys right now. We'll see what happens if that ends up coming out. I think that at some point you're going to see it. I know they did the new design on the logo and stuff like that yesterday as well. Brad just says, really happy Saints are week 2, should be at least 1-1 after the first 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, if you go to Seattle and you steal a game in Seattle, which is completely plausible, you could end up 2-0 going into Arizona. I think that's favorable. I mean, looking at the schedule the way it is right now, there's a chance with the way that it works out, if they get past Seattle, that they could show up to the Rams on week 5 in that Thursday night football game undefeated 4-0. Like that's a real possibility because of the teams that they're playing after Seattle: New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville. Arizona is just so erratic. Now they've done a very good job of building their defense. I think they continue to add to that. But what's it going to look like early? They're counting on a lot of young players like the 49ers. So question marks there. But I mean, I think that early it kind of starts out nice. Then you get into that middle part of the season. When you get to week 5 at LA, at Tampa, Atlanta, and Houston, that 4-game stretch is going to tell you a lot about where the 49ers sit at the end of the season. But you're right. The first part of the season is setting up nice, and the end of the season is setting up nice, especially when you go from week 12, through their bye week and into a week 16 versus Indianapolis. You feel like those are 4 winnable games too. So you got them kind of on both spectrums there. You got the games you feel like you can really win, and then you got the games, the ones that you feel like are going to be a little bit tougher, that are going to be a little bit tougher to get through. So I think that I like the schedule so much. Shooter McGavin. I love the name, by the way. Well done, Shooter McGavin. I am looking forward to that movie at the end of July. I'm loving the schedule this year. Thanks, Ant. Go Niners. And I appreciate you coming through, Shooter. I'm enjoying the schedule as well. And I think that this is a good one. And this is what Brad says: Cleveland in November. Can anyone say run heavy game? It's Buffalo all over again, right? Last year, Buffalo near Thanksgiving, it was snow like crazy. And that one was a Sunday night game. This one's going to be a 10 o'clock start time. So it's the same sort of thing. The elements are going to play a part in the 49ers end of season. Those games at New York on November 2nd and at Cleveland on November 30th will be the biggest weather condition games of the entire season. And those will be the question marks. Those will be the question marks if they're going to be able to, win consistently. So I think that, those are definitely concerns when you look at the schedule. I wish those ones were, like I said, earlier. So that way New Orleans and Jacksonville could have been later. You don't worry about weather in Florida or New Orleans because New Orleans is in a dome. Key says we play almost all our division games in the first half of the season. I hope Brock signs and McCaffrey is healthy. Yeah, good call. You do. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the division games in the first 10 weeks. Then you've got Arizona after that. So then, yeah, it's a long stretch between week 11 and week 18. The 49ers, no more divisional games. So it is, it's basically bookend by Seattle. But after that, I mean, you're done playing Arizona by week 11. You're done playing LA by week 10. You play them 5 and 10. And so you're getting through those games pretty early. So nice thing to notice there for sure. And Kenny says this, and I did see a picture of it yesterday. I'm looking for way more forward to the John Madden movie with Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale. It looked interesting. Christian Bale looked a lot like, the owner Al Davis. So I did think that was interesting. Sun Yu says, Are you surprised we got that many primetime games? I was expecting 4. I had heard earlier in the day that it looked like it was going to be 4 for the 49ers, but the 49ers are one of the teams that travel the best in the NFL, and they are a team that gets the most viewers. So no, it doesn't surprise me that they get 5 primetime games. I had seen 4. That's why I counted it back earlier. So I think that this is just kind of normal now. The 49ers get 5 primetime games because number one, they have primetime players, but number two, the fan base shows up and shows out. We all watch, and our fans go to all the games, and it's just one of the most exciting things is the 49ers showing up. So they just bring it. They put butts in seats, they put eyes on the television, and the NFL knows what sells. And so these teams are, these networks, they want the 49ers. They want these marquee matchups, and that's what they're going to get. That's exactly what they want. They want Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan. So that's exactly what they're going out and making sure they can have happen. And, Rick says this, every week is a challenge for the 49ers. I want to see what happens in September and October as a diehard Niner fan. 53 years, that's a long time. It is. You've been a Niner fan longer than I've been alive. So, Rick, tip my cap to you, sir. You've been doing it. And here we go. Right here, Diamond says, talk me out of 13 wins. Without going through and picking, these games outright right now, looking at the other team's schedule, I'm not gonna talk you out of your optimism. I know that right now the 49ers betting wise are favored at 10.5 wins, over under 10.5. And so to say that the Niners could get 13 wins, I don't think it's crazy. Now, there's a lot of things that have to go the right way, right? You have to be able to have key players step up. These rookies are going to have to play really well. Some of the veterans you have that maybe haven't played up to their level yet are going to have to play a little bit better, more consistent. And there's a lot of things that have to go your way. No injuries to key players like Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey. But if all goes the right way with this current schedule, there's an opportunity for the 49ers to win a lot of football games this year. Now, do I know if that's going to be 10, 11, 12, 13? Not yet. Not without looking at the schedule. And even then, I'll be wrong. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? When you pick these games, I just think it's tough to figure it out. But it's always fun to kind of look at that. And, if they could pull off a 13-win season and get home field advantage, I brought this up, during the offseason, you never leave Santa Clara. And that's interesting, especially what their bye week is. Could you imagine the 2 bye weeks never leaving Santa Clara? You're setting yourself up for a really good opportunity to get all the way to the Super Bowl if that was to happen. Anthony says, I can't wait to see the defense take a step forward with Robert Saleh. No more missed tackling. And that's going to be a key element. Guys like Jair Brown, D. Winters, they can't miss tackles. They've got to make sure they make plays. And I do think that there's going to be a emphasis from the 49ers defensive coaching staff to make sure there's no missed tackles. Some of these guys are just super aggressive. They get kind of out of control. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that that's one of the things that's going to be added to it. So I appreciated this. And so thank you so much, Rick. He says, I love the hat out of the 49ers. Excellent, my friend. Thank you. And hi, I'm glad you are here. I appreciate you coming through. Key says, only one Thursday game is positive. I just hope we don't have to play 5 games starting at 10 a.m. We'll see if those get flexed, right? But right now, it's 5. And I do think that is an interesting part of this schedule where this time the 49ers didn't get as much, heat or trouble when it comes to the schedule as far as rest, as far as days during the week. They got hit more with your internal time clock, right? I mean, 10 o'clock on the East Coast is not usually easy. So that's interesting. And Sun Yu says, losses at Bucks, Browns won against the Seahawks and Rams. It's interesting you put the Browns on there. And I remember a couple years ago, the 2023 season, is people talked about how the 49ers struggle playing up in that region. And I thought for sure they were going to be able to beat the Browns. I thought they were going to beat the Vikings. And so you saying Cleveland, it doesn't surprise me, even though they have whatever going on with that quarterback situation. That game is going to be tough in the end of November in the elements. That one is going to be tough. So it doesn't actually surprise me that you said, hey, that could be a loss because that happens sometimes when you play up there for whatever. Randy says, hope special teams comes through. And I did just get a request, and this is from Benjamin. He said, hey, he wanted me to do a deeper dive into special teams and what the 49ers added. I'm looking forward to doing that episode because I do think that they added a lot to make the special teams better. But special teams is going to have to come through. Jake Moody is going to have to make plays if they want to be successful. But I think if you look at this schedule, I think that there are some games that stand out that are going to be very tough games. Of course, you always look at the division games. Those are always tough. But I think outside the division, you look at some games that are going to be extremely tough. I think the Tampa Bay game at 10 a.m. is going to be difficult October 12th. That one, Tampa Bay keeps getting better. And the 49ers have had Tampa Bay's number, but that one could be a little bit difficult. I think at Houston, the D'Amico effect, what's that going to be dealing with CJ Stroud? They drafted every single wide receiver you could possibly get. It felt like, out of Iowa State. So they've definitely got talent there. We'll see how that one goes. I think that's going to be a tough one outside the division. And then I think that there's two other ones out of division that I'm the most interested in. It would be Indianapolis and Chicago. And I don't know if I see them as like the toughest, but I see that there are some interesting developments that could happen there because I think that the Colts have been improving. Now they have to figure out the quarterback situation for them to be a potential threat, to beat the 49ers. But Chicago has added a tremendous amount of talent to the offensive line, and seeing that offensive line with those 49ers defensive line, it's going to be fireworks. And I'm really excited about that. So 49ers schedule is out. It looks pretty good. Throughout the week, we're going to break down the schedule a little bit more. We'll talk wins and losses. We'll talk all of that. I'd like to thank you guys all for coming through. I really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic. And, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And this episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.